Hi again, Mark here from TalkingBass.net. This week I'm going to quickly cover what is probably the most common problem that I see when going over the basics with any new students. Now in short, it's a problem with note duration and control. So let's have a look at the problem itself, why it's a problem and some ways to fix it. If you've not visited TalkingBass.net, then go check it out. There's a lesson map over there containing loads and loads of video bass lessons covering pretty much every aspect of bass playing. And if you join up and subscribe to the free membership area, there's a whole host of things in there. There's a courses area where there'll be regularly updated courses, both free and premium. There's a forum that you can go on there. There's also a library section where there's like loads of different ebooks, and then there's the practice room where you can do things like practice your scales and arpeggios, go through improvisation. There's improvisation tracks in there, and there's big lists of bass riffs, slap riffs, drum beats to play along with, just loads and loads of stuff in there. So go check it out. Now, the problem that we're going to be looking at looks and sounds a little bit like this. You go to play something, let's say a C major scale for the sake of argument, and instead of a smooth movement from one note to the next, like this, the notes sound a lot more staccato and detached, like this. So can you hear there that the notes aren't running into each other in the same way? The note durations are different. So for the legato one, where they smoothly move from one to another, so we have the full note duration for each note there. Detached, there's gaps in there. And it could be anything from very staccato like this, so anything like this. Small gaps between each note. Now, I find that loads of bass players from beginner to intermediate level have this problem, and I think it stems from the fact that when we first learn to play, it's a case of fret the note, now play that note, now fret the next note, now play the next note. So there's a gap between each note as the hand moves from one note to the next. And obviously this gives that staccato note sound, as the notes don't run smoothly from one to another. And that feel is fine if you intentionally want to do it for some reason. So let's say that the bass line needs a more agitated, funky sound, like this. You want to be able to do that, you want to be in control of that, but you don't want the hands to be dictating what the note durations are going to be simply because of bad technique, or simply because you've never thought about it because you don't know. So that's a very, very common problem. So how do we fix this problem? Well, a lot of it boils down to technique, but it's also just a case of opening someone's eyes to the problem. Sometimes students don't even realise that they're doing it and don't realise that there's any other way of playing. It's just a case of I fret, then I play. So the first thing I'd say is just be aware of the note length, okay? And concentrate on trying to hold a note for longer and get as close to the start of the next note as possible. You want that full note duration. It's very much a case of just waiting and then fretting the note as you pluck, for the next note. Both fingers of the left and right hand want to work together. Now, there's technical ways that to help with this, but it is possible with even the worst technique in the world to get that legato feel. So if I'm going from the notes C to D, that C major scale, I can actually lift them right off the fretboard, but still create that legato feel. So it doesn't matter how the hand is here. Still getting that full note duration. So even though, like I said, there's technical ways to work on this by holding each finger down and all this kind of stuff, but really it is just a case of waiting until the next note and then just pressing down the note there and plucking at the same time, and just waiting until that moment when you need the note. Now, scales are a good way to gauge with how well you're doing with this. So I just want you to play a C major scale, again starting at the 3rd fret of the A string, and I want you to play through it slowly, one note at a time. So let's first just concentrate on the C and the D. Okay, so we've got the 3rd fret to the 5th fret, and I'm going to be playing the C with the 2nd finger and the D with the 4th finger. So we've got 2nd finger, 4th finger, okay? And we're going to play it slow. We don't need to play it fast, just slow. So we play that C, hold it, and then when we go to play the D, as I just showed before, you want to bring down the D, bring down that 4th finger and pluck at the same time. Now you've got to be careful obviously with this because you don't want to pluck before you put the finger down, and you don't want to bring the finger down before you pluck, because either way you're going to have a problem. You're either going to have a hammer on before you pluck, and if you pluck before, you're going to get the C again. So it's got to be simultaneous. So we have this kind of action. So I've got the 4th finger coming down and the plucking finger coming down at the same time. Now up till that point, you want to keep that 2nd finger held down. So in fact, we're going to keep that finger held down anyway. So we want the 2nd finger to stay held down and then just drop the 4th finger and pluck at the same time. Okay, so C, D. Like I say, keep the 2nd finger held down, don't lift it off. Just keep it held down, that'll keep the note sustained. So we don't want any kind of, we're not bringing the finger off and then doing it, because we don't want that gap. So we just want a complete held note. We want the duration of that C to lead right up to the D. We don't want any gaps in there at all. C, D, C, D. Okay, and just practice working round and round and round on that, okay? So now let's work slowly through the rest of that scale. So we had the C and the D. Now we're going to move to the E. So we keep the D held down right up until that point at which we want the E. So we don't have a fraction of a second where we're thinking about it and making the move. It's got to be the absolute moment that we want the next note, and then we bring down the E at the 2nd fret there and pluck at the same time. Okay, so we have the D, E. So it's a nice smooth movement from one note to another. Okay, so all together there we have C, D, E, and each note held for its full duration. Okay, now once we get to that E, we can then move to the F. So again, we're going to hold that F down, the E down, and then just as when we need the note, the F, pluck and bring the finger down at the same time. And of course, this is why I class this as a technical exercise, really. We're really working on technique because we're aiming to synchronize both hands, really. We're having a finger come down and plucking together. E, F, E, F. So we're holding the E down, the F is coming down. Next up, we've got the G, E, F, G. So once we get to the G, we have all of those fingers held down. 1st finger, 2nd finger, 4th finger. They're all held down together there. E, F, G. Same again, we move up to the A, 2nd fret of the G string. So from the G, we don't want any gaps there, just moving smoothly in. B, C. And of course, once I've come up A, B, C there, all the fingers are held down there. A, B, C. 1st finger, 3rd finger, 4th finger. Okay? So from the start, through the major scale, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. And then you want to work on just building up speed or even playing it slower, because it makes no difference whether you play fast or slow. To be honest, at slower tempos, it's more likely to do it. So let's take it even slower. C, full duration for each note. Faster. We want exactly the same technique for whether it's slow or fast. Okay, and all of a sudden you'll have a much cleaner scale there and just much neater with the notes, and again, a smooth line. It's not an agitated, it's, okay? So once we've reached the octave at the top, we can come back down, and it's exactly the same principle. We want to hold each note for its full duration. So I'll just come down, C, B, A, G, F, E, C, D, C. So. Up and down. All held for the full duration. Now, once you have this principle of holding each note for longer, you won't have any more problems when performing larger stretches or position jumps with those little gaps. You just hold until the next note is required. So to give you an idea of how to think when I'm doing this, I want you to try playing the same C major scale, but I want you to purposely use bad technique, okay? So you're going to use the same fingering, 2, 4, 1, 2, 4, 1, 3, 4. But I want you to raise the other fingers high off the fretboard so that they have further to come down when working from one note to another. And I don't want you to hold the notes down on one string either way. So for each one, we're going to hold the finger down, and then the next one's going to come down, and this one's going to come up. Okay, so this is what you would class as stereotypical bad technique. Okay, so I start there. You can see all the fingers are up. I've just got the second finger down on that C. And then I've got to bring that D down with the fourth finger. But I can still hold for that longer duration because I'm waiting until that moment at which we need the note. Okay, then the E. And this is why I said that technique can help with this, keeping all the fingers nicely held down so that we're moving into each one and, 1, 2, 4 and all the fingers are there. But it doesn't have to be. It is more just an outlook, just a way of thinking while you're playing. And you just have to practice that. You just have to be aware of it, that you want to hold for the full duration. Like I said, don't play the next note until it's required. Don't pluck, don't bring the finger down. You hold the note down, hold that C until you need the D. I suppose it can make you feel a little bit uncomfortable thinking, oh, no, but I need the D, but you just bring it down. And the more you practice it, obviously, the better you'll get. So now let's try something a little bit different with a position shift so that it's not all in one area, because that can be quite easy to practice. When you start making position shifts from one area to another, then we've really got to think about trying to, butt up to the next note. So we'll try the same scale, C major, but all we're going to do is take the top line there, A, B, C, and we're going to move it down onto the D string. So we've got A, B, C down here. So we've got C, D, E, F, G. So 3rd fret, 5th fret, 2nd fret, 3rd fret, 5th fret there. Then we're going to move up with the first finger to the A there, 7th fret on the D string. And then just play the remaining notes, the B, 9th fret of the D string, and the C, 10th fret of the D string. So it's the same familiar pattern there, it's just that we've moved to that whole step, half step pattern on the top, down there onto the D string. Okay, so first of all, just practice that pattern round and round. Okay, you want to get it into your head there, and then just practice slowly going through it and keeping the full duration, just as we did with the previous example. Okay, so full duration. So when we move from the 4th finger there to the 1st finger, we've got this little slip over to try and work on. So we've got the 4th finger to the 1st finger, and that can take a little bit of doing. You have to work on that position shift itself, but you don't want to make the shift until until the note is required. And this is why some people get a lot of noise when they're moving around doing position shifts, because if you move too early, you're going to get that noise, as your hand's moving. So again, you can see very slowly. See how it didn't move? It's very late, and it means that you've got to move quickly. The hand's got to move fast. So even though we're playing very slowly, very slow tempo, very slow rhythm, it's a very fast movement of the hand, and that can take a little bit of doing because we automatically think at high speeds, fast tempos. We always think of moving the hand fast, but at slow tempos, we always think of moving slowly, and that's not what's happening here. We're playing slowly, but the hand is moving quite fast. And if you have any problems with that position shift, as I've said in other lessons that cover these shifts, isolate the movement. So we've got the fourth finger to the first finger, fourth finger, first finger, fourth finger, first finger. Okay, and that should get you better at position shifts, and it should also get you better at this note duration thing. So it adds a fluidity to your playing. So that should give you a better idea of the kind of smooth movement that you should be aiming for, but it's also worth purposely trying to cut the note durations down, and this improves your overall note control. You want to be in control of how long those notes are. So again, we'll move back to the original C major scale on 3 strings, and this time you want to play the notes with half the duration. So basically we're going to be playing 8th notes. So we're going to have 8th note hold, 8th note gap, 8th note hold, 8th note gap, and that'll sound like this. So we have 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Okay, so the held note is for the same duration as the gap. And to do that, all I'm doing is releasing pressure on the note, when I want it to choke off. So I've got there, and then I just release the pressure. I don't take the finger off. Still stays attached to the string, but we're taking the pressure off the wood, or the fret, let's say. So just release the pressure there, which is an important technique to learn, actually. How to choke the note without having to use this hand. Often we'll use a combination of both, but it is important to be able to just control it with this hand. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Okay, and now this time, let's try the same thing, but this time we'll try a very staccato note. So that'll sound like this. So to do that, I'm doing exactly the same thing, choking the note, but I'm just literally pressing down for a very short amount of time, just a little press like that. It's also worth noting that when I do choke, I've just kind of noticed it there, I do use this hand for choking slightly as well. So, because you can choke a note just by using this hand. If I pluck, I can cut it off with the finger. So as I bring the pressure off, to emphasize that, to clean up that choke, I can actually bring the finger back as well. Bring the picking hand back down. So we have. So I'm releasing the pressure slightly on there and bringing the finger back onto the string. Or staccato. Okay? So once you can control the note durations a little better, you can start to apply it in bass lines. So listen to this groove, and some of the notes are held and some are staccato to give it a specific feel. So. Okay, so if I was to hold all those notes, it's got a different feel again, a very laid back feel, okay? If I was to play it all staccato, again, very agitated kind of feel, better for the kind of funk kind of stuff, or, anything that needs that kind of feel. Full length, and then so So each one of those grooves had a little bit of a different feel, or quite a bit of a different feel really, and you want to be in control of how long those note durations are held, okay? Like I mentioned there, shorter notes will always sound a little more agitated and spiky, so they're good for when you want a bit more of a restless kind of vibe, something more upbeat. Longer notes have more mass and are good for drawing attention to a note or notes, and that makes them good for accenting the important keynotes of a groove or drawing the ear to something coming up. It's a little bit like the difference between a tight choked hi-hat and a more open sizzle. So that's note duration. As I say, it's probably the biggest problem that I find in new students and something that often they don't even realise is happening. So check out your own playing and see whether you have any issues with moving smoothly from one note to another, because it can make a huge difference to the sound of your playing. Remember to like this video and leave a comment. Also subscribe to the channel for regular updates on new releases. Also check out TalkingBass.net for more lessons, articles and downloads, and subscribe to the free members area for all those free goodies that I mentioned. There's the forum, there's the practice room, and loads of free ebooks to be had, so just go check it out. Okay, see you later.